everybody, it's Josie here, and I'm going to be talking about one of my all-time favourite authors today. So I have read all of their books that I know of, and if there are any more, please let me know. I've also been checking Goodreads to see whether or not any books are forthcoming and available, and I haven't seen any yet. So also, if you know of any, please let me know. The author I'm talking about is Nina LaCour. Nina LaCour writes these beautiful YA books that include queer characters in them. And sometimes queer relationships are central to the story, sometimes they're side characters. But what I love about Nina LaCour's books is that they kind of grip you by the soul and by the heart and shake you a little bit. That's the best way I can describe it. They're YA books, but there is so much depth. There is so much exploration of grief, of families, of, finding yourself, of being who you are, of kind of that real soul searching that happens in those kind of teen years and those later teen years, and really the ups and downs and the joys and the sadness that we go through. And I love it. I do love YA books. I read a lot of YA books, but Nina's books just seem to have so much kind of depth and substance and just real emotions tied up into them. Nina's books are some of the few books that actually make me cry. So both We Are Okay and Hold Still made me actually cry. Which, yeah, that doesn't happen very often. I don't normally cry in books. Yeah, these books really did kind of touch me emotionally. So what I'm going to do is I have got the 4 books that I have here of Nina's, and I will go through them in order of my favorite. I'm going to say my favorite to my least favorite, and when I say least favorite, it's just because it's not as great to me as, say, Everything Leads to You is, and that is The Disenchantments. The Disenchantments is also the last book I've read, and I believe that is the last book that's published currently of Nina's. So, they're in that order because it just happens to be the least favorite of my Nina books, but I still liked it. So the first one that I love is this one over here, is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. So this book is about Emmy. So Emmy has graduated school and she is doing a graduation program in terms of being like a set designer in Hollywood. And she's gone to stay with, I believe it's her brother, her older brother, am I right? Anyway, I believe it's her older brother. And one of the conditions of her staying in his apartment is that something great has to happen that summer. So she's got to make something great happen, which I think is a great premise. It's really, really sweet. I like that. I love that idea. And what I love about this book is the kind of the setting. I love books that are set in Los Angeles, around Hollywood. I love all that, and this book is so sun-drenched and beautiful, and you've got this Californian summer, you've got the movie industry. I love kind of the behind the scenes of making this indie film that she's working on as a set designer. And Emmy's character is queer, so she has an ex-girlfriend, so there's a complicated relationship there with the ex-girlfriend, and then there is also a new love interest in this book, and there is also a great friendship in this book, which I love, but then there's also a kind of a mystery element where she finds these old, I think they're documents or letters from a movie star from a kind of a bygone era, and there's a mystery to his life, and they kind of uncover something about his life. So I love that. This book, I would say, is the least heavy, probably, along with The Disenchantments. While there are some really heavier topics and, familiar relationships and that explored in it, I feel like it is beautiful. It will make you smile. It always makes me happy. I adore this book. I adore the setting. And this is my favorite Nina LaCour book. Then my second favorite, but these are kind of on par, so, is We Are Okay. This book is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum. This book is perfect actually for winter. It is cold. It is incredibly sad. So you've got Marin, who's the main character, and it is Marin, yeah. Marin is the main character, and she basically picks up her life, doesn't tell anybody, goes off to university, to college, and you find out kind of the tragedies that happened in her life and what's brought her to the point where she just feels like she has to be alone and drop everything, and that's including her best friend and sometime girlfriend. And it is, like I said, incredibly sad. This book made me cry. It's not a very long book, but it packs an absolute emotional punch. And again, it's this exploration of grief and loneliness. You get this real, I mean, the whole book is pretty much set, you've got the beginning part, which what happens when she's at home, but then the main bulk of the book is set in this dorm room over Christmas, and it's cold, and it's really just about Marin and then her friend that comes to visit her, and that's kind of it really in terms of cast of characters. And it's so beautifully written. I can see both. I can see this one and Everything Leads to You as a film. I'd love these to be films. They would make, I think Everything Leads to You would actually make a great miniseries, but I think this would make a fantastic indie film. It'd be absolutely beautiful. And there's so much emotional depth in here, but just kind of, it's trigger warnings on grief and death and kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. But if you can handle that, it is a sensational book. Highly, highly recommend. And obviously there's a queer element where Marin, the main character, is queer. The next one, which is another huge emotional punch, and this was actually the first Nina LaCour book I read, and this is Hold Still. So Hold Still follows, oh God, I can't remember her name, Caitlin. Caitlin is the main character. So Ingrid was her best friend, and Caitlin and Ingrid were inseparable, and they could promise to always be that way. And then Ingrid dies. And again, this is an exploration of grief, of loss, of kind of coming to terms with who you are, making new friends, moving on from tragedies, and how you deal with that. Again, it is beautiful. It made me cry, similar to We Are Okay in those themes, but it is just an incredibly beautiful, heartfelt book. And what I loved about this one is you've got this friendship group of slightly oddball, I guess, characters. Remind me a little bit of Jeff Setner's book, The Serpent King, in that regard. So you've got these, I think it's 3 friends in this book, or these people that befriend Caitlin and, you know, help her through this, and it's beautiful. And there's also a great relationship with the family in this, and there is a queer element. One of the girls that Caitlin then makes friends with is queer as well, and she's really sweet. There's a sweet little like romance side plot in that as well. And then the last book that I've just read is The Disenchantments. So The Disenchantments is about a band essentially called The Disenchantments. Now, I love anything music related. Again, this is this one's set, they live in San Francisco and they kind of go on a road trip. So what it is that cusp of 3 out of 4 of them have just finished high school, and it's like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? You know, you imagine this person that you're going to be, is your life going to take that direction? They're taking this a few week sort of road trip around to play some gigs. So the 3 girls in this book are in the band, and the boy who I've forgotten his name, Colby, that's bad, I've just read this. So Colby is the best friend, and he's kind of almost like the roadie and the sort of pseudo manager almost, and he tags along when the 3 girls are in the band called the Disenchantments, and they're going around to play these gigs. Now, Colby and Bev, I think it was, yeah, Bev is, they're kind of best friends, and the agreement that they'd made was they weren't going to go to college after high school. They were going to go on a trip to Europe, and you know, they've been planning this trip, and Colby's really excited, and after they take their road trip and do their final kind of tour for the Disenchantments, they're going to go off, and they're going to go, Ben and Colby are going to go off on this road trip, and you find out very early on that that might not be what the plans are, and it is it is an exploration of friendship, of you know, truths. How much do we tell truths and lies? How much do we keep to ourselves? I love the band element, and again, the kind of the setting, the sort of LA type of, not LA, California type of setting, but there was just, I have to say, there was just something about this book that didn't kind of grab me emotionally as much as the others did. And I realized that also when I was reading this one. I read it and I put it down for a couple of days, and then I picked it up again, which didn't happen with the other 3 books. So there was just something that I didn't connect to that emotionally. Maybe it was because it was a male protagonist. I don't think so. Like I said, I love The Serpent King, but I don't know, it just didn't pack that emotional punch the way the other books. I get what it was trying to say, and I actually really did like the storyline, but it just wasn't quite there. So that's why I say it's my least favourite, but not a bad book by any means. And I still enjoyed it, and I like the girls in the band. That's kind of cool. So that's it. So those are my Nina LaCour books. Like I said, let me know if you know of any more, and let me know if you've read any of them and what your favourites are. And I will speak to you all again very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.